Thinkers and builders. In this episode, we are talking about holistic, intentional leadership at work and at home. And our guest is Sarah Ezra Terry. Sarah is a daughter, a sister, a friend, a mother, a wife, and she wears many hats in her community. But also, Sarah is a senior management and board executive with over 18 years of experience in her field of work. She has also managed multi-million-dollar projects. In this conversation, Sarah will share with us the principles of leadership that transformed her life. She will also share with us examples, and I believe that we need to have more of such earnest conversations. Karibu Sarah. Karibu to Thinkers and Builders.
Asante Maria, thank you.
You are one among the people I hold with high regards because of the way you carry yourself, the way you do your work. I know how intentional you are with parenting, how intentional you are with your leadership. So, who is Sarah Ezra Terry?
Oh my goodness. Who is she? I think she's a very simple person, very humble, somebody who loves to live with humility. I think I'm a very community, family-centered person. I'm also oriented to fairness and justice. But I have this dream for myself and where I can go and what doors I can open and how I can have impact on a very big scale or a scale that has depth, meaningful depth. So I'm a dreamer in that way. I'm an optimist in that way. But yeah, beyond that, socially, I am, a career woman, if you will. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a friend, I'm a sibling, I'm a daughter. And I mention that because I think over the years for me, and how you grow, especially professionally, there's a way of putting things in buckets, especially the professional phase remains that. And these days I'm increasingly embracing the holistic Sarah. So who is she and how does she want to show up?
You have opened a very big window for us to see who Sarah is. And I like that it didn't start with a title. I just like that. Yes, we're here to talk about intentional leadership.
Yes.
And it didn't start with a title, but who you are. It comes down to Sarah.
This particular entry I was telling you about has the name Sarah circled, and then there's spokes. So who is this Sarah? So then for me, what made sense was around how am I, socially, how am I grouped or categorized? Hence, saying I started by being a daughter, and then I moved into a friend, and then I moved into maybe a wife and a mother, and, a professional or whatnot. So, just all those different, and a sibling, siblings.
Yeah.
So, and then just thinking around that and saying, okay, so this, makes up me or makes the spaces I operate in, I occupy, right? And then what gives me that, I think you can say, energy, what fuels me, what makes now that Sarah, Sarah, how is she taken as a sibling, or how does she take her siblings, how is she taken as a daughter, all that. But it all came out to that individual.
In what spaces have you become a leader? And what leadership roles have you taken?
Let's start, I think, with the career one, which is the most maybe obvious, that maybe also puts me here in a sense. So from get-go, I always say I'm one of those people who consider myself lucky to have had a really good job, when I got into the workforce. I was making good money. I got a good role. I was director of programs at the initial institution that I was at. The executive director really trusted me. And I think that initial opportunity professionally then was a bouncing board to, other places.
Wow.
So I always believe it set me up for really good opportunities when I go into interviews, and I'm so fortunate. There's only one job that was a recommendation from somebody, but everything else, newspapers, I apply and I get called in the interview, and then I get the job, luckily. So it's never been because somebody connected me or whatnot, but I believe it's because of these events or processes or opportunities that happened to me before that gave me that platform. Then I could show, okay, this is what I did.
What type of a leader do you think you are?
First of all, a leader who stands for integrity and fairness. One thing I know, and there's one label that I've come across several times, so this is not Sarah trying to be brainy or something. There's leadership tests that they give you maybe at work or wherever. I can't remember the right word, but it's around consensus building. Consensus building. So that's also something I came to realize and know about myself. So what does that mean? It means if I need to make a decision as Sarah, most likely I will not make a unilateral decision immediately. I'll probably want to hear from the people in the room what they think, and then that will inform my decision. And or even if I've decided in a certain direction, I will go back and check it with the team to ensure I've got everyone on board. So for me, it was, again, it's those realizations you come through, and I'm really grateful for my employers who maybe in their leadership building, programs, you expose you to things, but it's something I picked and started realizing that about myself. So even when I go into interviews, or if I'm asked, that's the way, so that I don't disappoint you as the employer, or you as the employee, or you as my superior or junior, because that is how I move with decisions. So are we moving together? That is how Sarah is. So that, if you can term it that way, it's a consensus building leader. The downsides to that at times, it's and which is also feedback I've received even in the past. At times you don't make decisions as fast as needed. So at times people just need a very fast decision, and you would not expect that from me. So if that's the case, and I usually appreciate having those conversations with teams, so people just know where each one stands, then be sure that Sarah is going to sit on that thing for maybe an hour or two, if you needed it, maybe in 30 seconds, just to be okay. But it doesn't mean I can't make the hard decisions or the fast decisions, but it means I lean more towards this way of going about decision making.
I know, Sarah, you're being humble with your profile, but you have managed multi-million-dollar projects and all. That comes with a lot of responsibilities. I would like to know from you your principles of leadership, and why do you think those principles of leadership have helped you throughout your career, so that we can go to how can they help someone else in their career?
I think, so leading self, I think for me, is actually a very core thing. So first understanding Sarah, because I think to the extent of which I can be as how I want people to model, or I model how I want to see people, is very important to me. So again, going back to a career where it's about, let's say, impact, I want to be the first to be like, okay, I do this, maybe at professional level, whether it's, talking to community members, coming up with programs that, truly help and align with them. I've spoken about being, like a consensus builder. I think, it aligns a lot with things around, like engagement with your, stakeholders, understanding what are their priorities, what are their needs, and the multifaceted of it. And then, being there. So listening, listening more. I think around also integrity. So one of the things I believe, and yet have ever received feedback in a different manner, is around, especially financially, because in these big projects, as you say, there's so much opportunity to be corrupt or corrupted.
Oh, yeah.
At the time as a community relations manager, you have an annual budget of $2 million, to spend and do in the community, US dollar. So can you imagine what kind of exposure? But I'm very grateful in any of my instances, whether it's there, whether it's at my most previous in terms of programs director, there was never an issue of where have the funds gone? What has happened? And for me, that's so important. You called me Sarah Ezra Terry. And when I usually think of that, I never want it tainted with, a story of discretion or, or a transgression, if you will. So I believe for me, still those come up. I speak about humility as well, not in trying to be over the top with it, but it's really important for a leader to know they do not know everything. Humility comes from saying, I do not know everything. And I'm one to say I've been stretched in positions where you're leading academicians, you're leading... like in the mining, it's like really, it's, it's a boys' world at most. But it's like, okay, I don't know everything, but I'm going to learn, and you're going to teach me. And whatever little I know, I will try and pass on you. So I also believe in that sense.
How can leaders become more objective so that they can lead people more objectively and also have the visibility of the potential of what their followers can become?
I think there's nothing like objectivity in leadership. But I believe there's always an endeavor to find yourself somewhere in the middle. Because at any point it's going to be subjective. And even like I said with myself and the example, that I use in terms of my consensus leadership, at some point I'm bringing my own thinking. Even if I welcome you to bring in an idea, it will be how I've taken it and how I've taken you, I've taken it, and then what I choose to listen or not. But one of the books I've read, I think it's the only book I think I've read twice, and I could also go again and read like the third time and
Would you mind telling us the title
and
the author?
It's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey. Now, that's a book that came to me, and I loved it for the fact that it said, and even how it flows, was around start with you, because everything revolves around how you perceive yourself, how you're either proactive, how you take yourself, and breaking down those barriers or perceptions, trying to the best of your ability. But I think in the ones about leading others, he talks about one, I think, habit, which is about learning to listen, if I'm not mistaken, before being heard. But for me, that was so profound. It was like, do you know how many times when if somebody's talking, you're ready, you just have the answer, you just have the idea, or you've already put an outline together and you just want it to go be validated, so that is not. So for me, that's where I believe leaders need to lean on. So one is truly doing the work on yourself. So what does that mean? Understanding yourself. how do you lead? How do you react when people, how do you deal with power? How do you deal with difference in opinions? How do you, settle for decision making and whatnot? If you understand that, hopefully it will be an aha moment and it will be like, oh, now this makes sense. That this is how I've been navigating life. And then really take time to listen. So one of the things I bring in, especially also into workplaces, I cannot tell you how much that has not been seen as the cool thing to do or the most productive thing to do. But I can't tell you how many hugs and how many hours I listen to people. And at times it has nothing to do with work.
Yeah.
It is just about somebody's having a really, really bad day. That's already skewed how they are going to show up in the day.
I've seen you do that.
And just and just sitting there
Yeah.
and that's the most important, because nothing productive will come out of that day from that person on that particular day. So increasingly, I've come to learn about that. Of course, you will channel people back to, the objectives and everything. But in that moment, somebody just wants a good ear and it will help them recalibrate, and then they'll go back on the, on the bandwagon. I'm very conscious of also being a woman and a leader.
Why?
Because
it has never crossed, I've never been conscious of my gender at any point in my career.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And
So
and I mean,
interesting you mentioned
it's
it.
good. And again, this I think comes also off I think another element of me is around justice, advocacy. It comes naturally to me. It has come in private spaces. Sarah Nikabishi, she does whatever, or I always have a cause.
Yeah.
But I think one that is dear to me, and I say has been really influenced from the personal sphere of my life, meaning, especially I think my mother's side of the family, the aunties or mama dogo kubwa that I have, and, just seeing that and the women in my life really made me very conscious around, women and women's spaces in society and how I wanted to show up. So when I look at, could somebody else with Sarah's exposure have had maybe a different experience? Maybe. But for me, I want to be like, okay, I want to create this space. Will another woman be able to walk in that door? Because either I've created that space, I've created that understanding. Do you check, the perceptions? At times you find yourselves, at least myself, sorry, you are subconsciously fighting a battle for another woman because somebody just said something.
Okay.
This doesn't sit right. And if you have that perception as a leader or as a colleague, then how many are you blocking in here? If there's another agenda, it's about the girl child, it's about the woman, and how they come in. We move through life and we know these things, but at times we don't articulate them. And at times I think it's important to own them. This is my reality as a woman. I don't know how many times, maybe it has or hasn't happened to you, that there might also not be space. You might be a manager, but no one calls you into that meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Or you might be there and everyone gives an opinion and, you're not called upon. So you have to kind of literally fight for that visibility, fight for that space. And in as much as it might be maybe irritating for some, maybe this is too much, I think for me it's very intentional because I know how many people don't have that space.
Yeah.
Right now I'm a board member of two entities. One is an NGO, and it's, girls, empowering girls, and it's an all-female organization. I love the fact that their board is also heavily reflective of that,
Oh, wow.
And another one is more corporate, but, less, although they've now made strides, but, coming in was less women. What does that mean in that sense? So if I'm there, then it's, yes, a privilege, it's humbling, and then how am I using that space?
I really like that.
That's
yeah, and you spoke about, again, listening to people, and you spoke about power at some point.
Yes.
And I was here thinking about how leadership is not about having power. but empowering others.
Yes.
Because you're listening to these people, maybe sometimes you don't even have solution. It's them who have the solution, but for you to be used as a vessel to serve them. And you also mentioned you can lead from anywhere.
Yes, you can lead from anywhere. So not all the time. I've been the highest person. Even I listen to people. Even other people have listened to me. But I think where it shows up for me the most, and I'll just go into a private kind of setting. So. Once upon a time, when my parents passed, the traditional thing, my brother was like, my older brother, he was like the person that got called in to speak now to the men on how the burial processions would be. And, we're in another room, and I was not conscious until later. I was like, oh, where is he? Where's my brother? And, they're like, oh, he's in a meeting. And I remember just thinking, does that mean he feels more saddened? Of course, it was not his doing, but I was like, the way they took him and the role, does that mean that he's the child that's maybe more saddened and shocked and would like to, participate in this more? And I just remember getting up and going into the other room where now all the men, my fathers, and just saying, Kwampa, I think that, the whole family, including, my older sister who's the firstborn, myself and the younger brother, we should be in this meeting. And I remember later my mjomba came and was like, where does that courage come from? Where did it come from? And for me, it was like a brainer. So I think ideas, leadership comes from anywhere.
I remember growing up, I had seen all sorts of types of teachers. Their leadership styles were, each one, it was quite different, but they had one similar character. It's like, you cannot challenge me. That came out so strongly that when I joined university, I met Dr. Ayub Rioba. And first day, in his very first lecture, he said that if I say anything wrong, feel free to challenge me.
Wow.
I felt so much empowered because I felt like I've been longing for that for so long in the academic system. And I believe that built me moving forward. Because in every work environment I went to, I would speak up for myself, I would speak up for others. And I can even go to respectfully to any leader and say that I think you were wrong when you said this. I stand to be corrected. What about we do this differently?
I had a very beautiful experience at university. I thought of it differently than you, so I'm also going to internalize how you presented it. Because I remember coming back home on my first holiday and telling my mom, wow, I am smart. I didn't know smart, because in all honesty, Maria, let me tell you,
I like where that is going.
Like this primary high school business, I don't think it worked for me.
Me too.
I don't. So
everybody knows that. Me too.
Yani, I took it as, in adulthood, and again, now saying how I navigate the world. They tell me, because these are, again, the tests that I do, and then you see the common thread. I do not like to feel refrained. Structures make me feel refrained. And if it's a physics subject or math subject, there is a particular formula, and you either know it or you don't. You can't argue your way out of that. I think hence that's why I'm a social scientist, and not to say I didn't do the lazy work. I still use math now. But I think what university provided for me was an opportunity to debate.
Oh, yes.
So I can debate you why 1 + 1 is not 2. And if I put the right arguments, you can mark that and say, correct. So I think that was the constraint then. So I really enjoyed university, because really it was about arguments, it was about philosophy, it was about really
critical thinking.
Yes, and so we're
good. Same here. We might have similar structures at workspaces, I believe, that confine people to certain environment and cultures, and people might not become best performers.
Yeah.
And we end up blaming people, but not working on the culture.
I can believe that. I think the workplace, in all honesty, provides some sort of structure, because not everyone can do how they want. And I've come across different ways of, structuring organizations. A friend, I think maybe like 2-3 weeks ago, shared something. I believe it is in California or whatnot, that I think they call it like a flat structure or something to that effect, where you know what you're doing. The procurement, financing, the accounting, the everything happens within your department. So what's your department? Is it the creation of bottles? Is this one now I'm using just an example of whatever. Is this function maybe to peel the apples, if it were, or something like that? And everything is within that. You don't have to go to a boss and ask for a budget. You don't have to, sit in endless meetings trying to negotiate and whatnot. But in that, I also learned there's a really important lesson around first understanding clarity of work, and then understanding that you're part of a bigger chain. So if you loosen up, you're definitely going to crack this whole machinery. And then integrity, that no one, or personal accountability, no one has to follow you up. So if we look at how our organizations are structured, a lot of the time as well, it's to try and bring those into the space, because unfortunately, you're not going to get. We should always be believing everyone is coming to work to do their best and for the best of the organization. But unfortunately, that's not always the case. So how do you put checks and balances to ensure that, and structures to ensure that people know? Hence why tunabandika a lot of policies. Hence why you have, values. Functions like, human resource, or, your one above, kind of supervisor, because it's just about really checking and balances. So maybe there's not that element, if I have to deduce it, maybe is to say element of trust. How can you get critical mass of trust and self accountability to be able to run, and people will trust that.
The decentralization you have just explained about is interesting, because I'm trying to imagine they must have a very good and complex system to link every department together so that the company can still operate as one.
Yes.
While everything is decentralized and is taking place within each department, because...
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was something around that. I didn't read much into it, but for me, it was like, if this could happen, imagine how many people would be empowered. Because also at times, you've got the best talent, but it's because it's not your space. So it's because, one person is blocking you, getting up. It's because this is how you've been taught how to show up in society, that, that you do. So how do we intentionally put those, maybe now it's system structures that really can show that for people. But it honestly starts at home. And I think for me, one of the biggest realizations, one of my aha moments was, why do I do this for somebody and I don't do this? Or why don't I run my home as a company?
I remember you once told me that you showed me your Excel sheet and all that. I was like, oh my goodness, your home runs like a company.
Why don't you? Because these are really good lessons. These are really good tools.
Yes,
and there's something around having the efficiency around them. For me, that works well for me. And maybe that's how my mind is organized, and that's how I show up in the world. But it's really beautiful. So I was like, how is it you're asked to write a plan, do a media review, do an end-year, review and report, and you do that so well there, and then you come at home and it's shagala bagala. You know what I mean? So for me, it's like, oh, wow. For me, that was also one of the things that cross over. So my biggest, I think, path right now on this leadership path is, how do these things, that's why I said from the beginning that it's now bringing everything together. Like the Sarah who will show up at work you're going to know a bit about her home, space and how she leads that.
Mm-hmm.
Home is going to know about, Sarah at work and things like that, because it is one and the same.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to put a hat here and
Yeah,
then
and
remove
then
it and then
remove
go.
it,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and where it all then aligns usually will come back to, maybe your values, maybe your structures, and maybe also what you accept.
I like how you do things. You say that you learned from the organizations or the companies you have worked with.
Yeah.
You took those systems and started implementing them at home. I remember one time you showed me your Excel sheet. Just a glance, and I was like, I don't know how you run things. I feel like the physical space is a reflection of the mind space. That's what I strongly believe.
Yeah.
But yours is
Oh
to
my
the
goodness.
dot. Like even years of your life from now, like 15 years, is well planned.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would like to learn more from you. Why are you doing that and how you're doing it? I believe there could be so many people doing that.
Yeah.
But to me, I have never seen anything like that.
No,
Yeah.
thank you. Let me pause there. Just if my son ever watches this, I'm just going to make a joke for him, because that was one of the conversations. So my second born has gone to university, and that was one of the last conversations we had before he left. Because I was like, a cluttered environment is a cluttered mind, and vice versa. A cluttered, mind is an environment. So there's a way of which you need to, structure it. But I think, as you're saying, in observing, in the spirit of listening and everything, one of the first places I think I got this habit from, if you will, was from my father. And I do recall, like, Baba would go everywhere with like a diary, or if not, he would write notes. And, these are things, of course, you'd see it, but also later, after his passing, we were able to find some of these diaries and, family meetings. We do those family meetings. He's recorded, he's spoken to this one today, this is the outcome and all that. So I think I got it from there. But the other revelation, and it's a series, and I want to mention maybe 5 books: 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Lean In, Women and Money, Robert Kiyosaki's, what's that? Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad, yeah.
Brene Brown, Daring Greatly. These are not books I read all at once, but they're books that came into my life at different times.
Okay.
But I think the one thing I got from it, again, with that listening, so I'm reading, I'm hearing, I'm understanding, this is the principle, was around how you organize yourself, how you organize mostly around financing, but mostly also about yourself. How do you get to know yourself and things like that? And then coupled with that, in seeing different, like now the organizations and companies and the work you have to do. Maybe I was fortunate or unfortunate, but I also went into places where it was a lot of programming. So in many of the roles I had was in program manager, program directors, program and advocacy. So there's a lot of work you have to do in putting things together for them to make sense. So bring that, and it was like, okay, how do I do this? And I recall, even before getting married, I knew something has got to change for me. More so before I got married, I used to work on a 5-year plan. And I would go with, so what do I want at the end of these 5 years? Where does Sarah need to be? Again, if you mirror work, your strategic plans, they're 5 years, some 10, but mostly 5. And then what do I need to do? The small bites I can do to get myself there. But also, and I remember this was so also let me give credit. This was a Robert Kiyosaki moment. I'd come across the book at the entity I was working at. It was in gender health, I think, at that time. And it had circulated among many people, and it was causing such a buzz. And I hadn't read it. But that day I got a hold of it. And I was like, who brought this book? And they took me to the finance director, who now is also a dear friend, a dear financial mentor, Emilian Busara.
Ooh.
And he just took my hand and he said, Sarah, he took me to Posta. And, I brought, shares, bought shares and things like that. But through that, he's, I think, the one who would have inspired the idea. I don't know if he inspired the Excel sheet, but he would have inspired the idea of being organized, because at the time I met him tracking his shares, so how much he purchases them for, how much, he gets profit and all that. So for me, one of the questions he asked is, what are the things you'd love to do? So I knew I want to, have a family. I want to travel. I want to, I think, build, invest, and whatnot. So I maybe had like 5 things. So if you put that in the idea of 5 years, a strategy, and then what does that mean maybe on an annual basis? What does that mean on a monthly basis? Then you've got your work plan. So it really has, what's that vision? What did I want? Did I want to go on holiday annually or every 2 years or something like that? And put that. And really, if you've come across, and it doesn't need to be an Excel sheet, it can be whatever it is somebody's comfortable in using. But just intentionally putting that out, and then saying, this is how I'm going to try and achieve it, because you're only just trying, or you're going to achieve. But also what came with that, and I find I do it more after, having my children and getting married and all that, is to review. So that's, again, another process from work, because you get pulled up and you're like, guys, what was your performance this year? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a mid-year thing I do. So how am I against the target? Especially after you've broken down the 5 years to annually. How far am I against the target? How will I get to the target, or do I need to readjust the target back? And then at the end of the year, as you're planning for the next year, then you reevaluate the whole year. How was I against that? Am I happy with myself? What needs to change? So when you get a family, the principle doesn't change. The philosophy behind it doesn't change. It's just the dynamics. Now, kids' school fees is there, which is something I didn't need to worry about before. The grandiosity of the issues is bigger. So whereas maybe saving, elfu kumi was enough, now it requires laki moja, that kind of thing. But the principle remained. I'm very lucky in that I also got a partner who really agreed and believed in that. So we kind of just meshed, as a family. And as the kids got older, we would involve them. So really it was, let's sit down. We have this, I think this year we had one in January. We just went out to a restaurant, sat down. Okay, this is what we planned. My husband was actually on the laptop, because we really also write the achievements and what we didn't achieve, what we're postponing, what we'll pick up in next year and all that. And he was, doing that with the boys and, and that. And then we now forward think, what will we do? So as I sit, again, this is my personal experience, and which I feel very grateful for. So me, I'm on an agenda that by 2033, my situation needs to have changed, whatever that is, whether it's where I'm sitting in leadership, where my family is, what would I've achieved, spiritually, physically, financially, socially, whatever, that's all laid out. We're on 2033. And then we do now annual kind of, how do we get there? How do we get there? How do we get there? So for me, it's about because that's how companies win. And I think the biggest company or the first company is your home, if you look at it in that perspective. And just having also the right support and alignment as a family. And my husband and I speak about it because we think there is value to it. It maybe doesn't work for everyone. But for us, it's very important because I do not see how we move as a couple in the same direction if we're doing different things. So when is that time you come and discuss priorities? And even then, it's not smooth. So I don't say it's smooth. There are things which my husband will bring, and I'm like, oh, I'm so glad you're broke now because you're not going to do that. So I'll fight you the next time. You know what I mean? Yeah, next time when you have money, we'll fight about that and whether it's a priority or not. But I would never want to be apprehensive around financial security, and how I see it. So for me, I can maybe pamban on my own, but not my children. Why do I want to burden them with that, yet I'm here? So let's have that kind of thing. The speed at which we want to move, the 20 to 33, that's me. If my husband could work forever, he's going to work forever. But me, I've put a very clear target. This is where I want us to be by then. So we might miss it, we might not. But for me, it's like, it gives us something also to aspire to, as a family.
What do you think are the principles that make integrity possible?
Integrity in itself maybe carries itself very well as a word, but yeah, as you're saying, so what maybe does that mean for Sarah? So for me, it's around trying my best, always trying my best to do my best with what I have or I've been given. A lot of people tell me at times I take myself too seriously. And I think, that's the order of the day otherwise, things. Yeah. But I believe there's something around really trying your best at. Again, just saying, I'm not good at it all, but I'm going to try, because in that you're going to stretch yourself in ways that you haven't, and then you'll get to know yourself better. I think there's something around being as honest as possible to yourself and to whoever surrounds you in whatever sphere. For me, the other thing around integrity is my word is my word. I try my best. If I tell you, Maria, we're going to meet on Thursday, I'm going to try. And if I can't meet you on Thursday, I'm going to call you or text you before and just let you know, can we postpone or whatnot? Because my word is like everything. Respect, for self and for others. If you tie those four, for me, that's what encompasses integrity.
We do have true leaders, and we do have manipulative leaders. Well, that's how I categorize them. Because if you're not a true leader, then in one way or another, you must be manipulating people. But also manipulative leaders, they do have a character that is unique to them. They cause a negative impact in a community or a society and all that.
A true leader, whatever sphere you're operating, your values, your mission, to an extent, your vision should really be aligned. I don't see how they could be misaligned. They shouldn't be misaligned. And when you feel that struggle, I think it's also now the opportunity to say, Ebungoja, let me take a step back. Let me understand myself. Let me do this. There's a vulnerability also other leaders fall to, because at times you'll see the manipulative leader or person who shows up in that way. They could be the most maybe talkative, productive, flamboyant. That's the person maybe at times you want to be attached with, because at superficial level, they're really like eccentric, they're exciting, they make those big promises.
And then, easy to connect with people.
Easy to connect. Yeah. And then when the dust settles and the rubber hits the road, then you don't see, okay, so ilikuwaje? What happened? Where did you fall off? Where did you what? But I also think, Maria, again, not from a very scientific place, but we should also strip the name leaders from them. They're just manipulative people. I think the distinction here we need to have is around institutional or role leadership. So let's say if you're like a director, an executive director. So
they're in a position of authority,
yes.
But they're not leaders.
Yes. And I think we need to call that out more. I believe we also get confused. I know there are great institutions, even the one that I was at before. It was called MSTCDC, MS Training Center for Development Cooperation in Osa River, Arusha. We're dealing with, governance and leadership because we understood one of the challenges. It is not a one-on-one that you get the role, you get, the position that naturally makes you a leader. So what are those qualities, qualitatively, that you need to have in order to be that leader, so that when you're given that position, you're then doing those things.
Yeah. Wow. And it's very important that all leaders are trained on leadership. They receive such leadership training.
Imperative.
Yeah.
Imperative.
Not because they're manipulative, but because there are so many skills to learn and so much knowledge to acquire in order to become a good leader. And we are never trained as leaders.
No.
We are trained on our scope of work, which we know.
Yeah.
But leadership, I've been in leadership position and trust me, being in leadership position doesn't mean you know it all. That doesn't mean you can do better than those who are below you.
Yes.
I've led people who have very good experience, very good skills. They have managed projects. And yes, there is the listening part and everything, but even if you have done all your best, you sit back and ask yourself, am I giving my team the best, considering the circumstances that are there?
Absolutely. And that's why for me, I'm very grateful for those experiences, the trainings. And I say I'm not done with them because there's just so much, as you're saying, to learn. You're put in a role. People naturally, because of also our cultural predisposition, depends because you are in a higher role, you have the best decisions, but not necessarily. And I think that's also the if we now speak of a maybe more maybe country level desire, it's maybe to tackle such a thing and to be okay with saying, we don't have this, let's get the training. Yes, I'm here listening. Or, somebody come to me, boss wangu, au sijui nini. And some people are so much older than you. They've got so much wisdom. They can add to that discussion better than you. But because you hold the role, no one wants to advise you. So I think also the other element is for a leader, as we're saying, to show that, I don't know if it's now vulnerability or to say, to welcome people. That I remembered, again, the MSTCDC, and we had that open door policy. So don't book an appointment, come in. Do you know, like you said, there are some people who look at you and are waiting for you to fail.
Oh, yeah.
There are some people who are willing to gossip, but it takes more beautiful people who say, let me hold your hand and let me teach you. Yes, and let me teach you this. Because at that point, and for leaders, it's not around at times the technical stuff. You need to understand the technical ways. But when you're put in those, let's say, like C-suite roles and whatnot, it's about bringing that all together and what does it, what sense does it make? Moving, opening doors, negotiating, bringing in maybe partnerships, supporting, with strategy, direction, giving people space also to think, to feedback, to, coordinate. So it's okay to, as you're saying, know the technical stuff, but when now your role, what does it need for you to elevate it to be now that leader, that guide?
I once heard somewhere, leaders are not liked because of themselves, like because of it's you, Sarah, I like you. You are liked because of what you bring to the table.
Yes.
As a leader, how then do you think a true leader can become authentic when dealing or leading their followers in critical situations that limit them to, let's say, be truthful? For instance, there is a circumstance that has happened and your people depend on you to say the truth. And at that point, that is limiting you. And the moment you are not as truthful as they want you to be, or you're not as honest as they expect you to be, because different environment push us to such scenarios as leaders.
Yeah.
What can a leader do, or has it ever happened to you, and how did you handle it?
I believe, in all honesty, yes. It's open book and shut, as they say. If somebody is dishonest, you lose your catch with people. You lose, the why it is, because at the end of the day, regardless of the role, it's also about humanity. So you've broken the trust and things to that effect. But I think what leaders are subjected to at times, which is also taken lightly, is, when you talk about confidential information. Yes. And not necessarily somebody wants to not share. The leader does not want to share, but the circumstances, as you say, cannot allow them. Either the information is too early, maybe it's too sensitive, maybe, it requires some sort of consultation with a certain group of people before it becomes public information and all that. And I think genuinely leaders struggle with that. I think there may be two occasions I can cite. One of them when I was in the mining company, and then one when I was in Arusha. One was more, without also devolving much there, was more really sensitive, and it required information needs to be given first to the family before you can really dispense or and share. But you know how already rumors have gone, things have gone. How do you manage that? And you, as a communication person, that was a major, just like crisis. And how do you not divulge information, even to team members, because of just what has transpired, the implication, because also you need to identify who will this information belong to, and who are the right people. So in this case, first of all, it would have been the family before you go crisis manage. And with the mindset, also the community, a very big stakeholder, beyond the workforce, your community members, when the immediate community, they feel that they need this information. So in that sense, so if Sarah will not tell you maybe actually what happened, in this case, it needed an investigation, it needed the family to be notified, it needed the family to make a decision on what to do. Now they were just managing crisis in terms of this and that, you try. So somebody could come and feel a certain way, but I hope they do understand that cannot be shared. So I don't know if it's in that direction. In my most previous job was around a transition. And I recall being told about this transition when I was on holiday. And this was something I was coming to take up. Like, there's a gap that has been formed, and it was during COVID, and we just need you to help us through this transition. Whatever transpired with my predecessor, it was told to me because I also was asking the questions, and this is now my boss, and my boss was sitting in Denmark, what happened and what not. So in that case, again, it is not something that I would go to the workforce and say, this is what has been, and now Sarah is this, and now this is my role and what not. But how do we go through the processes and systems? Because you need to finish with one employee or HR process. Maybe you need to start another HR process. But what are the commonalities in those situations? And I think, again, this sits with, communication. Like, first for me, when we're talking about deceitful people, it will be about they've probably not identified who needs to know what certain information, because really it could be information that just needs ranks, so it doesn't, not everyone needs to. So do you understand which stakeholder needs to consume which information? And then how do you put that communication strategy around those people? So is it going to be a one-time, announcement or notice that goes out, or is it going to be individual? Let's call this certain people because they're most critical to this information first. Let's get aligned. And I think where people feel especially gypped, and I think leaders need to use the resource of their management. There's nothing as bad as your junior knowing things before what you consider is management, senior management knowing.
Yeah.
Because you've cut this person at the knees. It's like, and then now the manager, whoever, is fumbling to understand. Yet they should be the one conveying maybe the message, controlling it. If there's anything, you've decentralized the information, they can manage it at that end. So I think also at times in that case, it's sometimes leaders who are really not aware of also the situation they're causing. Because in that sense, you're also sabotaging your team member, your most immediate, reportee or something to that effect.
When I started, I'm a poet, so when I started my first job, I used to step into each office, like whenever I'm called to that office, I would start saying it to myself because I was employed, never had an experience, nothing before. If it was an experience, it was in media. Now, my first employment was to lead a department.
Wow.
That's how I started my career.
Yeah.
And each time my boss would call me, I would stand up. I had my own office. I would stand up, do like this, and be like, I come as one. I stand as
Maya Angelou. Yes.
And I would say it to myself like 3-4 times, I come as one, I stand as 10,000. I come as one, I stand as 10,000. And then I would walk to his office.
Yeah.
And then he would be like, you did a brilliant job here. I want you to do something else.
Wow.
I'm like, oh my goodness, that was the first time I ever did that.
Yeah.
And then I'll go back and do it again. So I like that. You say that you have just been given this opportunity to represent many.
Yes. One of the things that I've increasingly come to find out, but also want to really define well and be comfortable in it. Women were fierce leaders, and we're fierce leaders in so many spectrums. Unfortunately, society sees the leader worthy of recognizing is that one who is in a formal sector, 9 to 5. I say unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
Because there is so much great work, great production and productivity going on in other spaces that no one is paying attention to or does not make it a big deal.
So our last guest was Dr. Catherine Kahabuka.
I know of her, yeah. I admire her. I would one day love to meet her.
Wow. So I'll give you the honor to meet her through her book.
Wow.
Which she signed it for you.
Oh.
We were recording the podcast and I didn't know even if she had carried her books.
Yeah.
But I asked her if she can give us one book to give it to our next guest. Who is you? Because I knew we were coming to talk about leadership.
Yes.
Leadership at home, leadership at work.
Yes.
And
my goodness.
Dr. Catherine, I am presenting the book to Sarah Ezra Terry.
Oh, this is a privilege. Thank you. Because of this, I'm going to look for her for sure. And
if you have watched our previous episode, you would have seen that you would have seen her signing the book. So this is the book.
Okay, sawa. Asante. Oh, this is such a privilege. Asante. Thank you, Maria.
Next time you're invited to the podcast, maybe you will cite Dr. Catherine.
Yes, I'm going to read it.
Yeah, you'll have a local book to refer to.
Absolutely, absolutely. Asante, be blessed and all the best.